Above the heads of Ukrainian infantry, Russian aircraft are buzzing like hornets, trying to sting them with their weapons. Russian pilots have gotten so bold that they allow themselves to fly directly over Ukrainian positions. This kind of behavior really pissed off the operators of the Polish Pyoron MANPADS, named after the god of thunder. As soon as this weapon appeared in the trenches, missiles shot into the sky like lightning.
Ваня, давай! Давай, падай!
We've got a bad boy like this. He's a little taller than a Stinger. He can hide in a trench, and what can you do to him? You can't do a thing, but he'll do his job.
And while the Piorun might only be a hair taller than a Stinger, its firepower proved very quickly that the difference is much bigger where it matters.
And the most important thing is that it was effective. The aircraft was successfully destroyed.
Today we're going to tell you how Ukrainians are hunting and straight up haunting Russians in the sky with Polish weapons. And most importantly, we'll try to figure out whether the Piorun MANPADS has really proven itself as effective in a modern war, or if that was just a one-off success. What comes next is the unfiltered truth from soldiers straight from the front line. Work on Piorun lasted a full 5 years. Polish engineers carried out a deep modernization of its predecessor, the Grom system, which entered service in 1995. It was created on the basis of the Soviet man-portable air defense systems Igla-1 and Igla.
Back in Soviet times, there was Igla and Igla-1. Its shape reminds you of the old model, but our Polish partners completely reworked the internals.
So, we can confidently say that Piorun took the best characteristics from its predecessors. On paper, it sounds really cool, but what about actual combat use? That's where the Poles got help from the guys next door in Ukraine. Above their positions, there's a whole swarm of Russian aerial targets buzzing around, and they urgently need to be brought down.
In this sector, enemy army aviation is working very intensively. These are Su-25 attack aircraft. These are enemy helicopters, Mi-24, Mi-8, K-52. That's what we see.
A Russian Su-25 pilot had no idea that Ukrainians had received a magic wand from the Poles, so he calmly took off to carry out his mission and drop bombs on friendly positions.
The Poles sent us this kind of surprise, a very pleasant one. This is the Polish Pyoron, a surface-to-air missile system for engaging aerial targets.
2 fully loaded Russian Su-25s were flying along a carefully planned route so as not to accidentally run into Ukrainian air defenses. They assumed Ukrainian infantry might use MANPADS, but they weren't sure if this particular weapon was actually present on the line of contact. The Russians took the risk, and that became their fatal mistake.
You know, there are people sitting in those pilot seats too, and they make mistakes as well. Our job is to wait for that mistake and take the shot.
Ukrainian air defense gunners held their breath and, like hunters in season, sat hidden in cover, waiting for their target. The Su-25 was like a wild duck flying low over the ground. A fat, juicy target. But you only have a few seconds to take the shot.
The target shows up for maybe 10 or 15 seconds. And in that time, you have to work it. We're like hunters waiting for our prey. We sit for a long time, we wait, sometimes for months.
The final battle was just minutes away. The soldiers heard a terrifying sound building in the sky, the roar of incoming Russian attack aircraft. They flew in on their target and fired their salvos. Powerful explosions thundered all around, but the Russians missed. At that moment, the Ukrainians brought the Piorun into combat readiness and prayed that the Russians would slip up and drift off their planned route. They wanted revenge for all the days those aircraft had robbed them of peace. And maybe God really heard their plea. Because right then, one of the Su-25s veered off course. It became clear that a meeting between the Piorun and the Su-25 was now inevitable. But would the Russian pilot manage to come out of this duel unharmed?
The aircraft was carrying out a combat mission with unguided rockets. As usual, they launched them somewhere into a field. They were returning along their standard route, and one of their aircraft made a wrong turn. That's it. He flew about a kilometer from our positions.
The Ukrainians had only one chance. The Russians would not repeat such a mistake twice.
Everything has to take seconds, because if you don't react in time, catching the target and shooting it down becomes almost impossible. You have very little time for that.
When the Russian Su-25 entered the system's engagement zone, the Ukrainians took aim in just a matter of seconds and launched. Every soldier crossed their fingers. waiting for the result of the duel. The feeling was like a decisive penalty in football, or an extra round in boxing, the moment when everything can end with an unexpected twist. Here's what happened next.
It happened on March 9th. The aircraft flew into our zone of responsibility, and we reacted in time.
Hit the like button so this incredible story reaches as many viewers as possible. That day, the duel ended 1-0 in favor of the Polish Pyoron MANPADS. But what about the Russian Ka-52? The one that stalks Ukrainian infantry like an alligator looking for prey. According to the Russians, the Ka-52 is a flying tank. So can Polish weapons stop it? The Ukrainians decided to test those Russian boasts about an invincible helicopter and set up an ambush hidden among the green trees. The result? The Ka-52 went straight to the scrapyard. According to Defense Express, with the help of the Piorun MANPADS, the Ukrainian armed forces have managed to hunt down and destroy both Russian helicopters and aircraft, including Mi-24s, Su-25s, and even the modern Su-34s. And the fighters of the 95th Air Assault Brigade shot down 2 Russian Ka-52 reconnaissance strike helicopters with this system. Did this affect the situation in that sector? Hell yeah, it did. Spoiler: Russian pilots no longer feel as confident in the air as they once did.
Lately, we can note a very high activity of reconnaissance drones. The work of enemy army aviation has decreased a bit. You can't say it disappeared completely, but it has gone down.
However, 2 other threats remain, just as frightening, and Russia keeps them up its sleeve like a hidden ace. These are drones and missiles, the kind that hit not only military positions but civilians as well. Can the Polish Pyoron handle them? In this footage, Ukrainian paratroopers successfully destroy 2 Russian Orlan 10 drones in a row. But what about cruise missiles? They carry flares, and hunting them is definitely not something you'd call simple. Here's how a Ukrainian general commented on the meeting between Piorun and a Russian Kh-101 cruise missile.
I congratulated the guys who on January 23rd shot down 2 Kh-101 cruise missiles. One missile was taken down with a Piorun MANPADS and the other with a Browning heavy machine gun.
It turns out this Polish MANPADS wasn't named after the Lord of Lightning for nothing. Just look at how many target acquisition modes it has. I bet even German DJ Paul van Dyk doesn't have that many buttons on his console.
It's good because we can set the mode: drone, helicopter, aircraft, and missile. You just press the control button and it shows what you selected.
None of this came out of thin air. The Poles approached their air defense systems very intelligently. They analyzed all the strengths and weaknesses of previous MANPADS in service and tried to reach the golden middle, and that balance became Piorun. Specifically, engineers significantly improved the performance of the cooled, stabilized infrared seeker head. It now has better resolution and is 4 times more sensitive. Argon is used as the coolant for the seeker. This decision allowed them to expand the target acquisition and engagement zone for aerial targets. But the most important thing is that Piorun handles enemy flares far more effectively, and flares today are one of the main countermeasures against MANPADS on modern aircraft and helicopters. Russians also install similar systems on their cruise missiles. And the Poles didn't stop there. The missile received a better engine, which allowed for an increase in effective engagement range. Piorun is equipped with both a contact fuse and a laser proximity fuse. The first detonates on direct impact with the target, while the warhead of the second explodes at a distance and shreds the target with fragments.
For countering all Russian helicopters that fly up to around 4 kilometers in altitude, or aircraft at low altitudes, this is the ideal option compared to the Soviet Iglas currently in service with the Ukrainian armed forces.
Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new powerful frontline stories coming straight from the battlefield. Aside from the foldable mechanical sight, the system now allows soldiers to customize their weapon. Thanks to the universal mounting rail, an infantryman can install optical, night vision, and thermal sights onto the reusable launcher. And after hearing this, Russian crews should probably think twice before deciding to fly night missions. And what about the missile? The one that makes aircraft feel some real pain in the sky. It received a reinforced warhead weighing 1.82 kilograms and can hit aerial targets at altitudes from 10 to 4,000 meters and at distances from 500 to 6,500 meters from the operator.
An extremely good, excellent, smart missile. It flies fast and hits the target well. A very good weapon.
And to increase the chances of a successful hit, Engineers improved the launch mechanism with modern electronics. They added a switch that lets the operator choose whether to launch the missile chasing the target or head on toward it. And in our editorial team's opinion, one of Piorun's biggest advantages is the authorization system. Only an operator who has the key is able to launch the missile. This simple little detail prevents the MANPADS from being used against friendly forces if it ever ends up in enemy hands. Another advantage compared to many competitors is its similarity to Soviet Igla systems. That familiarity allowed Ukrainians to master the Piorun extremely quickly and immediately use it on the front line.
It affected both the range and the shooting quality. Our units mastered them very quickly thanks to the similarity with Soviet models. They didn't need much time to learn and use them.
For some soldiers, Piorun became the absolute favorite. Where does that kind of love come from? Let an experienced fighter answer, someone who has plenty to compare it to.
Personally, the Piorun is the best for me. All my downed targets are with the Piorun. I also fired the Igla and the Stinger. The Stinger is a good system too, but for me, the Piorun is the one I like the most.
But don't hurry to celebrate yet, because Piorun does have downsides. And the biggest one is its price, 1.8 million euros. But even despite this serious price tag, countries like Norway, Estonia, Lithuania, Georgia, Slovakia, and Belgium have already signed contracts for Piorun deliveries. Why are nations ready to pay such money for a relatively new system? Two factors played in Piorun's favor: its successful use by Ukrainians against Russians and its high production rate. Poland produces Piorun missiles in greater numbers than the United States produces Stingers, and France produces Mistrals combined, which means the Poles managed to combine both quality and mass production. And that is a serious argument in modern warfare. Here's the confirmation straight from a soldier at the front line.
If we're rating it on a 5-point scale, I'd say it works at a solid 5.
Can we say the Poles succeeded? In our opinion, absolutely yes. Are they planning to stop? Definitely not. Engineers took into account real combat experience from the Russo-Ukrainian War. And right now, they're working on Grozmat, which is supposed to become the successor to Piorun. This so-called upgraded Piorun 2 will be heavier and will have a different operating principle and a new missile with an improved seeker head. We can wish them success in this work, and Ukrainian soldiers want to thank them for the help already provided.
We want to thank our foreign partners for the weapons and for giving us the ability to destroy the enemy.
Would you like to see more videos about MANPADS? Maybe one about the French Mistral, the Soviet Igla, or the Ukrainian Strela? Write your answer in the comments.